So today I'm going to talk about my fake radio station. I figured last time we talked about my fake religion, so why not go into my fake radio station? And before we get into the history of that, we're going to have to do some prehistory. So, just a second. Here we go. Pull out my notes. So when I was when I was 8, I wrote my first song, which was it was about a girl I thought I liked, and it was a parody of a song from Dragon Tale. So this will give you, if my being 8 years old wasn't enough to give you some kind of context, the song that I parodied was from Dragon Tales. And from there, I started kind of writing more songs. Not good ones. They didn't rhyme, so, And along with that, I've always had a fascination with comedy. I'd say I'm a fan of comedy, which is true, but it's deeper than that. I like comedy. I'm interested in comedy and stand-up and how it works. I don't think I could ever do it. Not as myself, anyway. I've thought about doing it potentially like as characters, like have Johnny Thunder or Mr. Brown do stand-up. But I don't know if I could do it as myself. But especially with audio comedy too. I heard comedy albums early on, and stand-up comedy was a big influence for me. So hearing comedy, not so much seeing it. I also really liked Adam Sandler and his albums, which of course came later. Not when I was 8. I wasn't listening to Adam Sandler's albums when I was 8, but later on, his kind of sketch comedy intertwined with music. And that was a later influence. So, anyway, that being said, when I was 9, I received a karaoke machine for Christmas. And, any normal person getting a karaoke machine would say, "Oh, great, now I can sing." And, I was given, I think, a couple of karaoke CDs to go along with it. And I did on occasion. But, of course, why would I do that when I could find a blank cassette and just start recording? Little prehistory, I guess. I had made one tape before. It was a gift from my mother for Mother's Day or Valentine's Day. I don't remember. I was a little bit younger than that, probably 6 or 7. So this is before I ever wrote a song, but I had that now digitized, which is pretty cool. So I knew that you could use a karaoke machine to record before that. But again, when I received this karaoke machine, I guess I just decided that I was going to just do that. I had these songs I'd written, again, not very good ones. One was called "In Child We Trust," which, if I'd had any kind of musical ability, like being able to play an instrument, it was meant to be like an AC/DC style song about how rough it was to be a kid, I think it was about like how kids are out on the street and how they're doing drugs. I wrote this when I was 8. I don't know. I don't know what the hell I was watching on TV, but anyway, that's what that was. So I recorded. I had a bunch of other songs that I'd written. Some were parodies. Some were. Well, the parodies rhymed a little bit better, but because I was listening to them and writing them as but the originals didn't really rhyme. But I recorded all of them. I recorded some comedy skits. I think I did an entire improv thing. Of course, I had this tape all digitized now too. There was a skit where I was doing George W. Bush, just a day in the life, and that was kind of an improv thing, doing kind of a young, a little young kid's interpretation of his voice. It's a lot better than that probably was. But I had a couple kids' joke books. I read from them. I told a couple of jokes that my grandfather had told me. It was like a variety comedy variety cassette tape, and I decided that's what I was going to do with this new karaoke machine. And a lot of the songs were about my partner in crime. Is that too subtle for you? Okay. And he was my best friend at the time. And sorry. And he was at this like group home for whatever reason. I think it was because I was a bad influence on him. I don't know. Anyway, as my history turned out later on, there were people who thought that my brothers were the way they were and they had made me that way, and I'm like, actually, story for another time. Anyway, so my partner in crime was there, and I wrote a lot of songs about him while he was gone, and he came back finally, and I was planning this big get together, and we had this thing, and I showed him all my recordings, and we decided we were gonna do a recording. So we did a recording that I've now titled Episode 1 of KRL. Oh my goodness. Well, we're not there yet, technically. And in that, I sang a couple of songs I'd already sang. We did a couple of comedy bits, which I think we did a scene from Rat Race, which is a fantastic film, random plug. A scene from Joe Dirt, which is a terrible film. And yeah, and near the end of that, he just happened to say, and this is KRL, and it's stuck. KRL Studios was the name of my fictional radio station, and it's funny because to this day, every now and then, well, I don't now because I don't have that's stupid. But if I make a mix CD for a Halloween mix CD, or I used to make a yearly holiday mix CD, it said KRL Presents, so to this day I'm still using that. So that was episode 1. Episode 2 of this cassette was with my cousin, and I'm not going to get into the weird-ass details of that, but just suffice to say, I had that to digitize. And that was that. That was the end of the tape. I think I might have recorded a short outro, but that was about it for that tape. And then there was cassette 2, and what's that note I have here? It says farting. Oh yeah, my partner in crime and I had decided that basically farting into the recorder was funny at that point. I'm not going to try to sugarcoat that. That's just the way it was. Did that. We did a couple of jokes about my grandmother. That tape wasn't as long. But it was about that time that that was the end of my karaoke machine. I actually sold my karaoke machine to my 2 stepbrothers, who weren't my stepbrothers at the time. They were just my friends, and they were, I think it was, I sold it and traded it. I got a rug and $5 from my brother Joe to have KRL, but I get the karaoke machine. And just for fun, I thought I'd show you. I still have, this is a piece of one of the microphones from the karaoke machine, and I still have it, and it's a desk piece that I have now. Just a little desk ornament. Memory. But after that, I decided that it was time to go in a different direction, and somehow I managed to get a new recorder, which I used. I was born in 1992, folks. I used this straight up through high school. I graduated in 2011. And it's got these buttons. It doesn't work anymore, but it's good volume. I can still open it, but it doesn't work. But I still have this as well, and this is what I recorded kind of the last of KRL on. You see that? Let's put that in the background. So from there, I decided that me and my stepbrother Tim were going to take over KRL. My partner in crime we'd kind of started going our separate ways at that point. And so me and my now brother Tim and I decided that we were going to do this on our own. So we did. We recorded a bit on our own with this, and the only real memory I have, those tapes don't exist anymore. I lost those ones. I think they're involved the next thing I'm going to talk about. But the one thing I remember from that is we were going to play, he wanted to play the Star Wars theme, and I didn't, so we got into a fight on air and discussed how we could still do it, because we could turn the volume down. You notice how much I care about this. It's just a memory. But then with the original karaoke machine, my two stepbrothers, who again were not my stepbrothers at the time, recorded their own stuff. They had a character named the Grim Reaper in one, I think called Icarus. I don't know. The Grim Reaper was great. It was Joe, and it sounded like, I think I described it as lamb chop on crack. Is how I described it at the time. But that tape is gone. I wish I still had it, because it had some great stuff. I have some of the tape on another tape that I made that was actually like a time capsule. That I wasn't supposed to listen to until I was 25, and there is some of that tape on there, but the whole tape was great, and it's long gone. But the last thing that I used this on at all was a cassette tape that I named Season 6. I named it Season 6 because it was the 6th year of KRL. And that was a very experimental tape. I think I had a Uncle, what the hell was his name? Not Uncle Tom. Uncle something, and he was a serial killer. Hilarious, I know. And there were a few other things. Again, it was some of those, a couple of other characters who were experimental. And the first couple of episodes of Benny and Martha. And I'm not going to talk too much about them because I want to get into that in a whole other episode. Because Season 6 is actually 2 cassettes, and the second cassette was a lot of Benny and Martha, so I don't really want to get into that right now. But yeah, that's where they came from, was KRL. And Mr. Brown was on KRL for a couple of little things. But honestly, because I was in high school, and I had these new characters, Benny and Martha, and later Mr. Brown, he kind of came in to his own later. But again, I'll talk about that in another episode. But that's when I kind of quit KRL, and I moved to YouTube with Benny and Martha, and really any kind of comedy that I wanted to do that I would have done on KRL turned to video form. And of course, Benny and Martha still stayed with that audio format. I have played around a little bit over the years with maybe doing Benny and Martha as animated, but I doubt I'll get there. But honestly, that's kind of where it ended for KRL. I think I wrote a song even. I know I recorded. I wrote and recorded. Oh, Benjamin. Sorry. I wrote and recorded a song called Goodbye KRL about me selling it off to Joe and blowing the place up, and then realizing that we need to bring it back, but we never did. And I think I'll end with that little story, as I had this big plan on it must have been anniversary year. And I was going to bring people in through phone and record a bunch of different things. And it just didn't work out. Unfortunately, KRL is dead officially now, which is fine because I'm still, you're watching this, on my YouTube channel, which I'm still quite active on. And anything in the future that I come up with that would have been good for KRL will probably be going right on here. I just don't have really any desire to go back to that. Of course, I still record it like I would. Now it's, of course, on a digital on a laptop. But then I'm pretty much recording it for YouTube. So, do I think it would be kind of cool to go back in time and find one of these babies that still works and record something on cassette tape? Of course I do. And knowing me, I eventually will. And then I'll digitize it and put it on YouTube. So, but that's it. That is the history and decline of KRL, my fictional radio station. And again, I mentioned it. This is kind of leading into what will hopefully be the next episode, which will be about Benny and Martha and how they came to be. I'm just warning you right now, it ain't pretty. And I'm going to try to be subtle with that. And then from there, of course, going into YouTube, it'll be Mr. Brown. So there is a procession here of the history. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you stick around and watch the next episode on Benny and Martha.